Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news on what is just another Mbeumo-less Monday. Whoa, I wish it was Sunday. I did nick it from the chat. Very, very good. I expect that kind of banter from you lot. But look, not again. Not again. What are we talking about on the show today? Well, there is a bit of repetition, but actually the 8 o'clock shows have been driven by you for the last couple of weeks, and I love them. What I want to throw into the mix is not again. We've seen Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal all finish better than us by a long way last season, and all of them by a lot better than we have so far. Last week, we saw Spurs, who beat us in the Europa League final, start buying better than us, and now Newcastle are buying better than us. Alanga last week, they're in advanced talks with Ekitike now, according to Ornstein and Romano. They're not going to stop there. So we're sort of 15th anyway, but our ambition is probably about 15th as well. When you look at the Premier League table in relation to summer transfer activity, we're in the bottom half as well. Like, it's incredible. And I think it needs calling out. And I think it is red alert. Because it's not good enough. It's not good enough, is it? Also, we're going to be talking about Chelsea's move for Garnacho. We're going to talk about Mbeumo being back in training. We're going to talk about Vlahovic being offered to Manchester United. About Victor being highly appreciated by Manchester United, according to Fabrizio Romano. Apparently, we've made a move for a Lyon midfielder as well. Sesko, we'll talk all about that. But conversation is what we're looking for tonight, and I want to talk about that. I actually want some of these positivity merchants to explain to us why we should be positive, because some of them still exist. They sit there going, it's a challenging market, you know, and I don't know why they have to be American. Yeah, it's a really challenging market, and yeah, you know, I did American again. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a really challenging market, and, you know, it's only the 15th of July, and, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we're Manchester United, and I still think we'll spend a bit of money and finish first, you know, it's what we do, innit, you know? So we can get into all of that. But before we get into all of that, I must remember that we are sponsored by Saily on the show today. What is Saily? Well, are you tired of hunting for Wi-Fi or getting stung by roaming charges abroad? Lots of people on their holidays at the moment. Well, Saily makes it easy to stay connected in over 190 countries. Download the Saily app, install your eSIM once, and you're ready to go. No SIM swaps, no airport queues, no hidden fees. Why is it better? Affordable data plans, instant activation, works on iOS and Android, and includes ad blocker, web protection, and 24/7 support. I use it whenever I'm abroad. No stress, no scams, and I'm online in the minute I land. So check it out with Saily. So also, on top of that, as always, there's something really good for you on the United Stand. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code next to me and get 15% off, yes, 15% off your Saily eSIM data plan today. Links in the description, scan the QR code. Thank you very much to Saily for sponsoring the stream. Check it out if you're traveling around. Really, really good piece of kit that you can try. Thank you very much to Saily. We've had a couple of super chats coming in early here. I just want to shout them out. I don't normally do them early, but I really want to, because there's a bit of a target that could get me going down the slide this week if you watch the lunchtime stream. I have said I'll set a target. If we do it, I'll go down the slide, which is quite far in the background. It's a bit of a trek. Loving the 8 p.m. shows as of recent, Mark, says Jay. Also, get yourself down that slide. Thank you very much. And the 8 p.m. shows have been made by you recently, so I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to the after show. Bartik, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much as well. Thank you for supporting the channel and joining the Members Club. We really appreciate those people who do that. Hyen says, I'm back to football news. Why have we only signed one player? Matthew Buller says, when Chelsea was being sold, there were conditions to buy the club. One was no dividends to be taken out, and another was a guarantee of at least $1 billion invested. Maybe that's why Jim couldn't buy Chelsea, says Matthew. Does the Ekitike deal mean Isak could be going to Liverpool, says Ajit. Could do. Aaron says, I think Mbeumo was stalled because sales haven't happened. Well, let's get through. Look, I want to talk about where we are. I want to talk about, we finished 15th. We lost the Europa League final. We were awful last season. I don't necessarily want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is what we've done after that. Because it's relevant. We were awful. We were 15th. We lost that Europa League final, which was big. But the season ended. We woke up on the Thursday morning and many of us went, we've hit rock bottom. It's quite enlightening. There's only one way up now. There's nowhere to hide. And yet we've hidden. I remember saying on that Monday morning, I remember working up towards that Spurs Europa League final, and it was like the biggest game I could remember in a long time. It had so much jeopardy. We had to win it, and I thought we were. I thought we would. After Lyon, I thought we would find a way. And then we turned in a terrible performance. We deserved to lose. And I went to bed on the Wednesday night thinking, God, I don't know. And then I woke up on the Thursday morning and I thought, actually, I'm the sort of person that when there's a challenge, you'll have a go. And I thought, you know what? I'm not saying there's a way back, but there's a scrap, there's a fight, there's a challenge. I'm up for it. And we've not took that challenge at all, because I look at where we are now, 2 months later, and forgetting last season and just judging the transfer window, I think it's very easy to have a league table on the transfer window. I don't know why people don't do it. At the moment, you'd put Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City and Arsenal in the top 4 again. You'd put teams like, even Sunderland are having a good transfer window. Doesn't mean they're going to be in the top 10, but they're having a good transfer window. I'd put Man United comfortably in the bottom half, and we needed to be in the top 4. And, I would say to the positive merchants, tell me I'm wrong. I'm not talking about last season. I'm not talking about your pre-season. I'm not talking about your positivity. We needed to be in the top 4 for transfer windows this summer. And we're in the bottom half again. It's depressing. I don't understand it. I think anyway, Aaron says, I think the Mbeumo deal is stalled because sales haven't happened to help the budget get the other position sorted. The top brass heads back in panic mode, says Aaron. Well, Mbeumo was back in training for Brentford today. I still am hopeful that deal is going to happen this week, as I'm sure many of you are. I'm not bothered that he's back in training. I actually think it's really sad that Gyökeres refused to go back to train for Sporting when they had such a good relationship. They gave him the opportunity from Coventry, and it ends sour. I don't like that. I actually haven't got a problem with Mbeumo being back in training at Brentford. It just shows his professionalism. I think it's a good thing. We haven't bought him. He should go back to pre-season and start getting a pre-season. I've seen people moaning about it, going, oh, God, oh, no, I was hoping he wasn't going to turn up. And I thought, I'm glad he's turned up. He's having some pre-season. And he's showing professionalism. I haven't got a problem with it at all. No, I haven't got a problem with it at all. I don't think it makes any difference at all. All I'd say about Mbeumo is probably what every one of you are going to say as well. We could have got this deal done in a week. I think Newcastle would have done. If Newcastle wanted Mbeumo, I think if he'd wanted them, he'd have been wearing a Newcastle shirt by the middle of June instead of still wearing a Brentford one in the middle of July. So I don't understand why we haven't done it in a week. I genuinely can't even remember there being joy when we signed Cunha with how long this Mbeumo stuff has gone on and overshadowed it. Depressing, says Barry. I think Mbeumo is a very good signing that we will appreciate more and more the more we see him in a shirt in proper games. Why doesn't anybody want our players like Rashi, says MUFC? Too expensive, really. What's the chances Jim decides what Liverpool did last summer is what we should do? 1 to 10 chance of us even buying a number 9 at this point. I'm at 4, says Jack Smith. Wow, you can't... You cannot compare us to Liverpool last season. I think anybody who does that needs to, educate themselves on the fact that Jurgen Klopp left a team that was capable of winning the league, and Erik ten Hag left a team that was capable of getting relegated. So you need to buy. No hate, but Terry is legit a positivity merchant. Yeah, but we like Terry, and the great thing about Terry is I'm on with Terry on his channel tomorrow at 11. I'll tell him, and he'll fight his corner. I don't mind that, but he will concede. He'll concede again tomorrow that it's not been a good transfer window. He has got the ability to listen. If you guys live in the K, you should mobilise to get these owners out. Something like what's happened in that Liverpool game that got cancelled, says Alberto. And also, welcome to the Members Club TTV Threever. Thank you very much for that. Isaac was not on the plane to Austria with the team, says Tom. I've given up now. We're not doing anything. Sell or buy, says MUFC. Get your ass down that slide. Champers, says Mr. Creed. Jamie, thank you very much for your super chat as well. Lee Payne says there is nothing to be positive about. Well, if there is something to be positive about, then maybe somebody can tell us tonight. But I want you to talk to me about why this is happening, because I obviously talk to you a lot and I can give you my opinion, but I think a new angle to look at it for an 8 o'clock show is we're in the bottom half of the table again for the transfer window. And we were in the bottom half of the table for the Premier League season. It doesn't go together. You know, it's like pissing on your chips. It's not going to work. You piss in the toilet and you eat your chips. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And the lack of communication is really poor as well. I'm sure Omar Barada or Jason Wilcox would love to be talking. Well, probably not love to, because they'd get difficult questions. But if they were told to, they would. It clearly comes from the top. And the lack of communication is appalling. It really is. And yeah, look, I'd love to see games getting cancelled. I'd love to see the Glazers and Sir Jim Radcliffe under pressure, because he said if he's under pressure, he's going to go. So he should be put under pressure. But all they're doing is hiding. It reminds me so much. Remember when Solskjaer got battered by Liverpool and everybody just basically was like, he's got to go. He's got to go. And we hit an international break and everyone was like, they've got to sack him in the international break. And they didn't. We came back and we got battered by Watford and then they did sack him. But in the international break, a lot of people are expecting the club to do something. They went and hid in a cave. Metaphorically, they hid. They just went and hid away. And then we were all just left there going, so we're keeping him then, are we? This is still what's happening. And Sir Jim Radcliffe's meant to be in charge of the footballing side. He's meant to be the British billionaire, you know, Champagne Charlie, Champers. You know, he's somebody that's been very visible when he's been involved in other sports, whether it be Formula One, cycling, boating. He's the invisible man at Man United. He is legitimately in charge of the football side and hides. You know, he can definitely hold himself in an interview. You know, provide a bottle of champagne and he'd be away. But I'm not saying he likes champagne. I'm just taking the piss out of the way he talks. But the reality is, I would have expected him to talk a lot more. And most of his interviews have actually not been directly to do with Man United. I mean, one of the big ones about a year ago was actually on a cycling podcast. So I just think the lack of communication is terrible as well. That, to me, is... I mean, I want to get your thoughts on this. As I say, the point is Newcastle are now in for Ekitike and they've bought Elanga. Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal are miles ahead of us and are making better signings. Top four, goodbye. But even if fifth place is up for grabs next year, Newcastle and Spurs are signing better players than us and we're already better than us. The gap, it basically is bigger. I'm looking at Villa, Spurs, Newcastle as maybe we can find a way into fifth place. And they were already better than us. I think Newcastle have got one of the best midfields in Europe, actually. And they're buying better players than us, so the gap's just getting big. Our only play seems to be, yeah, but we've got a week off when they haven't. That seems to be our only tactic. They'll be tired. But they won't be tired. They won't be tired, will they? Because they're building big squads. They're not going to be tired. We think we're going to rock up to Anfield and they're going to be tired because they played midweek. One, it'll be Super Sunday. And two, they'll have rested players anyway. So, yeah, it's massively confusing. Hi from Portugal, says Sag. Ray, hello, pal. Clearly not back to Amorim, says Dan O'Connell. Why is it just because we couldn't buy a bag in a bag market, or is there another reason? Well, we don't know because there's no communication. It's all very, 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 very confusing. Done that from Alberto Sanchez. Thank you. I'm just catching up on a few super chats here. Lee Payne says there is nothing to be positive about. Crippling debt, players not being moved on, a board without a brain, a totally bankrupted club, and a manager who will be sacked next season without being backed, says Lee. I mean, you've concisely put things together there that I'd even forgot about. The debt, of course. I've given up now. We're not doing anything. Sell or buy, says MUFC. I mean, I do wonder, in the lack of communication, I do wonder if we've been communicated to and they're just not going to repeat it. Omar Barada has spoken about the challenges of the debts. Ruben Amorim has spoken about the challenges of the debt. And here we are on July the 14th with no further communication, no ability to sell, no goalkeeper or striker lined up. And you start to think, you know what? Maybe they're not communicating because they don't dare communicate the reality of the situation, which is we are flat broke and we know it. But honestly, and I'll say this with total and utter honesty, if I was Sir Jim Radcliffe and I knew the club was broke and I knew that wasn't going to change and I knew we were going to get further and further away from the Champions League, then as a Man United fan, you'd have to be saying, I withdraw. There is no way back. I withdraw. I want a way back for this football club, and there isn't one in this model, because there isn't. I think one of the best things I've read today was this. It's one thing to criticise Sir Jim Ratcliffe because he's not finding ways to put money into the club like Chelsea have, but he only owns 28%. Why would you put billions of money into a football club when you only own 28% of it? It's like a mansion that needs rebuilding and renovating and decorating, but you only own 28% of it. And then you start fixing the roof and you do the garden. That's great, but who benefits from that? The person who owns 72%. So I do understand that, but it's not an excuse. Sir Jim should withdraw or say, I've got money to put in, but I'll only do it if you sell the club to me. This is why he never should have got into bed with the Glazers, because look at Chelsea, they're exclusively owned and they pump the money in. Look at Man City, exclusively owned and they pump the money in. It's not even in Sir Jim Ratcliffe's interest if he wanted to, and I would question whether he does. He doesn't own all the football club. He rescued the Glazers, and in rescuing the Glazers, he destroyed this football club. And if he is a Man United fan, and he's not just about the regeneration of the area around Old Trafford, he should walk away, because he is ruining this football club. His vanity project, or, property project, is destroying this football club. Because if we don't start injecting major money into that football club now, we are going to say goodbye to 4 or 5 English clubs that will never let us back. I mean, I look at the situation with Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, maybe Newcastle soon, and I think they could lock down top 5 for a very long time, indefinitely. We'd be waiting on UEFA saying you can have 7 or 8 teams in the Champions League now. We would need a Super League. As amazing as that sounds. Isaac was not on the plane. We've done that one. Thank you very much. Mark, is it me or Ineos and Sir Jim acting like communists? They don't interview. They don't talk about anything. It's like user says Arshan. I mean, I don't know whether I'd go that far, but they are running a dictatorship. They want your money, but they don't want to talk to you. Mark, appreciate the content and persistence. Hope it reaches more fans so that matchgoers stop going to games in order to save the club, says Dewald. How are we broke? They said no need for Bruno's sale, says Driz. Does anybody actually have that quote? Because it's a great comment from Driz, and I have seen it said a few times, and I'm not disputing it was said, but I don't remember it being said that we didn't need to sell Bruno because we've got money anyway. I don't remember that officially coming from the club. I took the Bruno thing as Amorim just didn't want to sell him. I didn't take it that we said we can buy a striker and a goalkeeper and keep Bruno. I think we all knew if we sold Bruno, we didn't really need a midfielder because we could play Mainu next to Agate, and we could get a striker and a goalkeeper. I don't remember the club saying we'll get a striker and a goalkeeper and keep Bruno. I think it was just Amorim didn't want to get rid of Bruno. The most embarrassing is all the directors and suits were hired last summer only for this summer to be worse and more incompetent than the last, says Bisson. And Mbumo deal losing its excitement with the time it's taken, which really is a shame because he's a great signing, says Cobby. I think when the deal happens, we'll be happy, but we've all been in this situation before. I mean, talking about Bruno, I remember the January we went for him and we needed 2 signings, and we were linked to him at the start of January, didn't sign him till the end of January, and then we didn't get another signing, and it got to the point in the middle of January where we were all just going, just sign Bruno so we can do something else. We were all very happy with Bruno, but we were all very aware that we needed more than that. The same thing's happening here with Mbumo. What a good signing he's going to be, but we're running out of time to do anything else. And look, as a little reminder, we took about 8 weeks to sign Cunha from the point that Fabrizio said we were in for him. We are, is it 6 weeks today? Or is it must be 6 weeks today that David Ornstein dropped that Ornstein bomber about how Man United wanted Mbumo. 6 weeks is about average for us at the moment. Agate was about 2 months. Delit and Mazraoui was about 6 weeks. So Ineos are averaging about 6 weeks a signing. So I think my point is, tell me the striker. Tell me the midfielder. Tell me the goalkeeper. We're not talking to anybody at the moment. One thing Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein would tell you is Man United aren't talking to any other player apart from Mbeumo. So when they do, you can start the clock. But we're not even starting the clock, and we're nearly 6 weeks out from the closure of this window. I mean, what have we got? We've got 2.5 weeks left of July. And then we've got, 4.5 weeks left of August. So we've got 7 weeks left of the transfer window, and we take 6 weeks to do a deal from when we first get linked. So if we don't get linked to somebody in the next week, it's going to be very tight to get it done before the end of the window. And look, that's not scaremongering. Go and look at the facts. Since Ineos came in, we're averaging 6 weeks per deal. From when we first get concrete linked to here we go. I'm at a loss here, says Armin. Sir Jim's a billionaire who knows he's not liked by the fans. He's presided over the worst United side in history, but he isn't backing his manager, even though we are PSR compliant. I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe is, whether he likes it or not, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think the perception of Sir Jim Ratcliffe goes back to that. Remember before the Glazers put Man United up for sale in the November? There was a story in the August that Sir Jim Ratcliffe wanted Manchester United. And then in the September, he did an interview speaking about the Glazers being nice people. And then in the November, the Glazers put Man United up for sale. And then over a year later, on Christmas Eve, they confirmed that they were working with Sir Jim. And then a few months later, he did another interview saying how, I can't remember the exact quotes, but somebody can quote them back to me. They're great people. They've not got a bad bone in their body. Horrific things that he said, considering, he now owned Manchester United with them. He basically, bigged them up and, told us they were great people who didn't have a bad bone in their body. He did do that interview. And I think the perception of Sir Jim Ratcliffe basically is he's always said positive things about the Glazers. And knowing that the Glazers had the regeneration project plans in 2017, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe didn't get hold of the club 28% for a few years later, I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe is the British knight in shining armour who fronts up like a puppet the Glazers project. They're still doing what they've always done. They're still destroying Manchester United. They're going to knock Old Trafford down. They own more of the club than Sir Jim. What people don't realise is, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe fronts up this new stadium and the regeneration of Manchester United, when that stadium gets built, his 28% will double, but the Glazers' 50% doubles, and that's more than him. They make the most money out of it. But I think Sir Jim is just perceived to be a Glazer mate with a British passport, helping them to get planning permission. That's the perception of him at the moment, because he's certainly not doing anything on the footballing side. You might try to be positive, but thinking you have a chance to get in the top 5 or top 6 is wishful thinking, says Joe. Oh, mate, 100%. I'm not putting us in the top 5 or 6. I think we're starting to get to the point, Joe, where you can have that conversation about where Man United are going to finish in the league. There is still time left in the window. It's ridiculous to start predicting it in the middle of June. But I think in the middle of July, we're starting to paint a picture. I mean, I was looking at an article on yesterday. I was looking at an article yesterday, and it prompted me, with my coffee in bed, like I sometimes do on a Sunday morning, to just go on my laptop and just do some research. And I wasn't naked. Wasn't that sort of research. But I was like, I'm sure. Yeah, anyway, look, my point is, I've lost my point. There'd be a point if it was that. Anyway, look, my point is, I was looking at, and I only did about 7 clubs, but I was looking at their, basically there's on Transfer Market, you can do transfers by year for every club. So I did Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, and I went through their transfers for the last 5 years, and I looked at the dates of the signings. And basically, by the time it gets to, I would say, the 25th of July, so 11 days' time, the vast majority of their business is done in the last 5 years. Most of those clubs have done their business by the 25th of July. There's one or two that come in late, but their big signings are done by the 25th of July. I mean, that's probably got something to do with the fact that it's pre-season and you want your players in for pre-season. But so I would say we're about 10 days away from the dead zone, where anyone you start buying after that is desperate, not going to get a pre-season, etc. So I think that we are at a point and approaching a point where we can start to predict where we're going to finish. Because look, I know where Liverpool have strengthened. I definitely know where Arsenal have strengthened. They've got another centre-back today. They've got a backup goalkeeper. They've got 2 midfielders. They've got a winger. They've got a striker, and they're still looking at Eze. That's to a team that sold nobody yet. So Arsenal are incredibly strong. Incredibly strong. I would say Man United at the moment can't get top 6. Where it is at the moment, we can't get top 6. I would be putting Newcastle, Spurs and the traditional top 4 ahead of us at the moment. So the highest I would say for United right now is 7th, and that's assuming we're a lot better than we were last year, that we're better than Fulham, Brighton, Bournemouth, Villa. I think the highest we can finish at the moment is 7th. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But logically, based on what people are doing in the window, how good they were last year, how bad we were and what we've done, I think 7th is the highest we can get. And I'm not saying 7th. Definitely don't say I'm saying 7th. I'm just saying right here, right now, 7th is the highest I would put us. Ross Stevens says, has Sir Jim put any of his own billions into Nice? If he hasn't, I doubt he would if he owned all of United. I don't know the answer to that question, Ross. Is it wrong I'm more excited at the prospect of you getting a friction burn on your arse than I am for the rest of the window? Champers, says Mr. Creed. Yeah, I will be going down the slide now. We've hit the target. It's flashed up for me. So well done. We have hit that target. So I will make sure this week, like my lunchtime stream, if you didn't see it, I'm out where the slide is, and I will do that for you. It will be quite funny because it's a bit of a distance, so it's going to look a bit odd in the background, but we will do that. We can't buy, we can't sell, Power's in charge, can't run the club, and are just business people out to make a profit in any way they can, says Adrian. Well, I think one thing that people are missing, because I'm not really interested in client journalists, and I'm not really interested in aggregators on X who've lived up the arse of the Glazers for years and talk, basically PR bullshit. I'm not interested in them because I don't trust them. I think they've got an ulterior motive because they've got relationships with people at the club. But I am interested in Ruben Amorim. And I said this to you last week, and I don't know who else agrees with me on this, but he was almost our champion last year because although the results were bad, he spoke the most sense like Rangnick did before him. I can't wait for Amorim's first interview. I don't know when his first interview is. I presume it's this week at some point. But I'm really looking forward to that because I want to know what his tone is. Because obviously in Ten Hag's second season, he completely changed. I don't think it's negative to sit here and say we're having one of the worst transfer windows in the Premier League at the moment, and multiple teams are having a better one than us, and multiple teams were already better than us. So my question to Ruben Amorim would be this. You finished 15th last year. In relation to transfers, you're in the bottom half again compared to everybody else and what they've done this summer. How can you be happy with that situation? That's it. The best questions are open-ended, succinct, and can't be dodged. So I would go, you finished 15th in the Premier League last year. The summer transfer window, when you look at everyone else's business, you're in the bottom half again. How can you be positive about next season based on that? And see what he says. Because I would expect him to say something really interesting, like he did last year. If he said what I was told last week, remember we got some stuff from the training ground and it was Amorim's really positive. Don't be surprised in his first interview if he says, I'm not worried about getting players in for pre-season because we're going to get loads of pre-season during the season because we're not in Europe. Let's see if he drops that out, because I was told he would drop that out. So let's see if he does. And if he does drop that out, I would then take a sharp intake of breath and go, has he swallowed the Glazer handbook in season 2 like Ten Hag? But that's what I'm looking forward to, because there's no doubt in my mind that this is a very concerning situation. I'm not convinced it can be rescued, but the only person I'm interested in listening to at the moment is Ruben Amorim to get his interpretation of the situation, because when you think about it, was it not Ruben Amorim who in March said this is the worst Manchester United Premier League side ever? Yes, it was, Mark. You're right. Yes, I know. That's why I said it. He said that this is the worst Man United Premier League side ever, and he's right. And some people in the media thought he was wrong to say that. I think it was brilliant that he said that, because it was true. But the incredible thing is, he said this is the worst Premier League Manchester United side ever, and here he is at the start of another Premier League season with that side. Like no one's gone. Only Cunha's come in. So the manager himself, and that's another question I'd ask him. You said last season this is the worst Premier League side ever, and now you are still working with that team. Are you really telling us that that team from last year is suddenly going to be one of the best Premier League sides ever because you've had a few weeks with them on holiday in America? Next week's Kone and Aiden Heaven, great in training, says Anthony. Well, you know, I mean, you say that, but that might be, I mean, look, we could do with a bit of a miracle, couldn't we? We could do with a couple of Yamals coming through or something like that. Just the thought, do you think we didn't sell Bruno because we knew Delap went to Chelsea, Victor Gyökeres' priority was Arsenal and Osman's wage issue, so rather keep Bruno and don't buy a striker this season? Scary, says Connell. You know what, this is a great point, and this is why I love this community, because I think we, you know, time and time again, we do get, you know, opinionated and passionate, but I don't think we ever won't appreciate an interesting theory, and I wouldn't dismiss that, Connell. I don't know that, but I wouldn't dismiss that. And some people did say it at the time. Basically, what Connell's saying is maybe we didn't take the £100 million for Bruno because with the £100 million, we knew we couldn't get anything decent. Which is even, but that would be an admission of incompetence. They didn't take the 100 million because they didn't think they could replace Bruno with the 100 million in this market. Which is scary, because I'd fancy myself to replace Bruno with that £100 million quite comfortably. Straight away, I'd get Richard Rios for 25. That gives me 75 left, and I've replaced Bruno. I don't need a number 10 because he's not going to play number 10, and I think Richard Rios is a better number 8 anyway. So I'd have £75 million left, and I'd already have Bruno's replacement in. With that 75, I could get Costa in goal. I've replaced Onana. And I'd still have the down payment on another striker. So I always said with Bruno's money, striker, goalkeeper, and Richard Rios would have been massively achievable. Look, it was always going to be controversial to do it, but look at where we are now. We are not talking to anyone because the plan is the same. Make do, says Keel. I mean, that is a red alert, isn't it? If the plan is to make do, you're basically asking a manager who plays a completely different style of play than we've ever had in our history to make do with 3 managers' players, all of which played 4-3-3. I mean, that would make Amorim's appointment stupid. If the plan was to make do, we never should have given Amorim the job. The only reason to give Amorim the job would be if you were going to invest heavily in the squad, because you've got to change the squad for him to play his system. If you were going to make do, you'd have been better off keeping Ten Hag or replacing him with somebody who plays a 4-3-3. It's the most stupid thing in the world to appoint Ruben Amorim and ask him to make do with 10 years of 4-3-3 players. It's mind-blowing. And yet, that's what we're doing on July the 14th. We are literally making do. What is this, Mark? Is it just pure incompetence or is there some grand plan? I know the truth is always somewhere in between, but how can we fall so hard? I don't know, Nick. I really don't think anybody knows the answer other than it's not going well. Sir Jim Radcliffe, no point in buying Man United, just utterly pathetic and selfish, says Wayne. Explain this. The Glazers wanted us to be in a Super League, yet now the Champions League is the Super League. They won't back Amorim to get us into it, says Barry. Yeah, I mean, there is a contradiction there, certainly. The Champions League is the Super League. I don't see what people don't see about that. It is the Super League. In fact, I think the Champions League will... I have two predictions about the Champions League. Clip it. Let's see if it happens. One, I think the Champions League will expand in the next 5 years. Two, I think certain Champions League games will be played in the United States in the next 5 years. Absolutely convinced. And basically then, it's as close to the Super League as it ever could be. And it's pretty close already. I know Perez wanted the Super League to make a lot of money for Real Madrid. You wouldn't be making a hell of a lot more money than you're making from the Champions League already. I mean, £100 million of revenue a year is pretty bloody good when you can still get your La Liga revenue as well. So I think we basically have a Super League. And the hilarious thing is, these owners spent a long period of time behind our backs trying to get into it. And now it's there. They're not trying to get into it at all. They're not. But I still think that... Remember, we're talking with 21,000 people who understand football. What you are missing here is, and I want to be completely and utterly ruthless in this statement, the Glazers know next to nothing about football. Think about Christmas or a family get-together, and think about talking to a family member or friend or who's there who knows next to nothing about football. Now stick a Glazer's face on it. That's what they don't know anything about football. You can see when they turn up to games that vacant look that you have when you're down the pub with your mates and somebody there doesn't know anything about football and you start talking about football. That's a Glazer. It's like a deer in the headlights. They don't know anything about football, which makes them very, very dangerous. And I genuinely don't think Sir Jim Radcliffe does either. I really don't think, for somebody who's older than all of us and is a lifelong Man United fan, he should have a lot of knowledge. And he clearly doesn't understand what Man United is, because no Man United fan would do the things he's done. So effectively, there's an answer to your question. You sort of say, why are they not trying to get us into a Super League? Because I don't think they understand why we're not in it. They probably think it's a blip. They probably think we're Man United, we'll get in the top four, that's what we do. And I don't think they realise that we're Man United in name, but we're Everton in reality. I said this a lot last season, respect to Everton. They've got a nicer stadium than us now. But what I mean by Everton is probably always going to finish in the bottom half. And I still think the Glazers and Sir Jim think we're Manchester United and we will get in the top four off that name. It doesn't work like that. And I'm happy about that. I don't think it should work like that. I think you have to earn it. But I don't think they realise the perilous situation we're in by not doing the right things to make us earn it. And we're nowhere near it. Shubham says, Elon Musk reportedly interested in buying United. Yeah, pull the other one. JB says, what kind of reality to hit them that these owners are not it? Man United deserves better owner if you're not to the glory of this classy club, says JB. Chuffbridge says, I wonder if Sir Jim Radcliffe's plan for running Chelsea was the same it is for us. Look, Chelsea fans have got a lot to celebrate at the moment, but if you want a little bit of extra celebration, just think Sir Jim Radcliffe could have bought you. And if he had, there's no way you'd be where you are now. Absolutely not. He'd have ruined you. Absolutely ruined you. So there's another thing for you to celebrate. Champers. Here's a question. How are they going to afford a new stadium if they aren't investing in the here and now? The future is ruined. Mate, I think we all know how they're going to afford a new stadium. They own a lot of land in that regeneration project, and that's going to be worth a lot of money. And there'll be loans or concessions or something that build that stadium. Yeah, they'll make a lot of money out of it, let's put it that way. We've got the new kits coming out, says optimistic Man United fan. J King says Ratcliffe should go and the Glazers should sell. We have made around 21 million from sell-on clauses of players we had sold. Why? While we paid only 20 million for the first year instalment of Cunha. So our net spend on the books is -1, says Mojo. Ross McRae Magician says, how do you think the fan base would be feeling if we had Spurs windows as things stand? Signing Kudus and Morgan Gibbs-White's transfer saga, says Ross McRae Magician. The thing about Spurs is they've got a better squad than us already. They've got 2 really good centre-backs. Danzo's gone as well. Remember, they've made Danzo and Tell permanent, who were loan deals from January as well. So they've actually bought 4 players. Spurs' squad's in a lot better situation than ours. They've got some really good midfielders. They've got some good young players coming through. They've still retained Son. They've got Kulusevski. They've got Brennan Johnson. They've got some good midfielders. They're bringing in Gibbs-White and Kudus. So Spurs are in a much better situation than us. And they've got a decent manager now. Hopefully United will launch the bid on Wednesday, says Riddick. I'm absolutely convinced we're not going to... Look, I will say this, and it's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing. It's an embarrassing reality. But you know, and I know, everybody knows, Man United are not launching that kit on Wednesday with the way things are. We're just not. One thing that will be high priority in the boardroom of Manchester United, it will be underlined with exclamation marks in the boardroom on the flip chart. Something will be happening for Wednesday. You know it. I don't know whether it could be late tonight, here we go. I don't know whether it'll be tomorrow, here we go. I don't know whether it'll be tomorrow, new deal for Mainu. Something will be happening. There's no way they're launching a kit on Wednesday as things are. And whether you take that as a positive or an irritant, we all know, absolutely nailed on, we are not launching that kit on Wednesday as things are. They have to sell it. Adidas will demand it gets sales. There will be something lined up for that. Absolutely. No way that's getting launched without something. And I think it will be. I think it will be Mbeumo. Look, we could get it tonight. It could be tomorrow, but I think it will be. Yeah. It could be a Mainu new contract, but I think it will be Mbeumo. Edward V says post Mbeumo the play. And look, at the end of the day, remember, all we're waiting to do with Mbeumo is offer Brentford 60 million, which is what he's worth. You're just going to go pay it. We've got a kit coming out. Edward the Fifth has gifted another 5 memberships. Not the first time, Edward. You're a legend. And he also says, post Mbeumo, the play should be getting a young but experienced striker on a loan to buy with performance expectations, then a goalkeeper, midfielder and winger, says Edward. Well, just to bring you a little bit of news tonight, actually, I just want to, again, applaud you all for a fantastic 8 o'clock show. They are the best shows we do. They are very, very rarely anything to do with any news. They fly by. There's so many good comments that come in, and it's always around something that actually matters, which I think is what the United stand should be. We just lose our way sometimes because obviously we have to cover the news on the other shows. So well done again. Absolutely fantastic show. Just to round up a bit of news for you, though. Obviously, I told you earlier that Mbeumo is in training with Brentford, which I think is a good thing. It shows professionalism, and he's getting a pre-season because he ain't going to get it with us at the moment. We also got linked to Lyon captain Tolisso by L'Equipe tonight, who is a midfielder. 30 years of age. Don't know what this wizardry is, but absolutely, how are we going to buy a midfielder when we're not in Europe? We're only going to be playing 1 game a week. And we've already got 5 midfielders for 2 positions. And on our midfield roster, we're paying about £1 million a week. 300 grand a week to Bruno, 300 grand a week to Casemiro. I think Agate's on 150, so that's 750. And then Mainu's probably going to be on about 150 on his new contract. That's 900k. And then you've got Collier's, which is probably, just under £1 million a week. So we're not going to buy a midfielder. We're not buying a midfielder without selling somebody, so I don't know what that story's all about. Fabrizio said that we do really appreciate John Victor at Botafogo. These are Fabrizio's words. He's really appreciated by Manchester United, but there is no club-to-club talks yet. He also says that Vlahovic has been offered to us. Look, my understanding is we've been offered Calvert-Lewin, Callum Wilson, Vardy, Vlahovic and Ramos. My big problem is, why would a football club prick their ears up at being offered a striker. It should be the other way around. You should know the strikers that you want, and you should be approaching them. We shouldn't have people knocking on the door saying, "Can I come and play for you?" So I don't want Vlahovic. I don't want any striker that's been offered to us. We should have a list. I know we didn't get Delap, and I know we didn't get Gyökeres. And Ekitike was somebody we're interested in, and obviously it looks like he's going to Newcastle now. But you should still have option 4 and 5. And if the option 4 is Watkins, then that's what you do. You don't start going, "Oh, we've just been offered Vlahovic." If he wasn't on the list, we shouldn't be going anywhere near him. I don't like the idea of taking players that are offered to us. It defeats the purpose of having a director of football. We should compile a list of players that we want, and we should get one off it. I mean, ideally, you should get plan A every time, but if you're not going to get plan A, you should get plan D. You shouldn't get plan, "I've knocked on the door," and go, "Ooh, I never thought about you." That I don't like that strategy at all. It's lazy, it's risky, and I don't like the idea of a player knocking on your door. They shouldn't be knocking on your door. If they're knocking on your door, I'm worried. I should be knocking on their door. Glazers know something coming with the Champions League transition to Super League invites for the big club. Why spend to get in if you'll get invited anyway, says Roy. Highly speculative. I don't know anything about that. Man United 1 billion sponsorship deal with Slim FC, says Anthony Tracy. I actually thought he was being serious there. Just bought tickets for Leeds United. Hope to see United stand there. I guess no Mbeumo, but hope to see Cunha. I would say Saturday afternoon is the watch along for the Leeds game. I would say Mbeumo being there is not impossible. It's not impossible yet, Maximilian, but I'd say it's looking unlikely. Sign Vardy and give him some nose candy. 20 plus goals, says Carlo. Hi, Mark. Can I get a shout out to my son, Owen? We watch United Stand every day. Love to you all, says Dave. Well, thank you to Dave and Owen. Thank you for being supporters of the channel. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I politely disagree with you about the kit thing, but hope you're right. Every time I take for granted the club will deliver, it keeps not doing it, says Tom. Look, I just think it would be very surprising if they launched the kit with nothing big around it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, we officially did Cunha on the day the first kit came out. So I just think that I'm not saying that Mbeumo will be official on Wednesday, but they can control "here we go" as well. I wouldn't be surprised. To the chat and the community, says Christian, you want to remove the owners, stop buying merch. We have to act united. We can only hit them in the financials, says Christian. Mojo's gifted 20 memberships. Legend of the chat, Mojo. As always, thank you very much for doing that. What shirt number will give Calvert-Lewin 1 inch wonder? Shut up. Shut up. Only thing saving us is his Inception job on the Glazers, says Sander. What a film. What a film. Chelsea did a rebuild in a year. It may take us 10, says Anthony. Well, you've got to start the rebuild to do it, haven't you? It's a bit like, I think Man United's team rebuild is a little bit like the stadium rebuild. It's all projections and ChatGPT images, isn't it? It's not actually started yet. If the board really thought this squad needed an overhaul and were on a limited budget, why go and buy 2 60 million players, says Chuff Bridge. Who is our starting 11 at the moment, says La Familia. I don't really want to do that at the moment. Because it's a little bit depressing to do that. There's no way Neville can defend Sir Jim this window, says Let's Go of My Blouse. I actually have sympathy for Gary Neville. Don't fall off your chairs. I actually have sympathy for Gary Neville because I think at heart, I would never say he doesn't have the best interests of Manchester United at heart. And I also think he has the best interests of the... I mean, I'm going to get pelted for this. We've not met up and made friends or anything like that. I think he does care about Man United, and I think he does care about Manchester. He obviously cares about making money as well. He gets up at bloody 4 o'clock in the morning. But my point is, I think the relationship with Sir Jim Ratcliffe is an embarrassment at the moment, because I think if he didn't have that relationship and it was the Glazers exclusively doing this, he'd be very vocal. We know he would. But the Sir Jim Ratcliffe relationship puts him in a position where he will know 100% that this club is in a big mess, and this transfer window has been an embarrassment. And ordinarily, when he returns to his punditry duties, he would be very vocal about it, as he has been about other clubs. But he's in a compromised position, isn't he? I suppose. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he will say something. If you're going to make do, appoint Deitch, Moyes, etc., says Ed. All we can do... that's not happened for ages. Sorry. I'm trying to catch up on some of these super chats because people are moaning. And what I tend to do is I read them, and then because people have made them, I actually give them, a little bit of time to react to them. So, and I don't just read them the minute you put them out. So, yeah, you're moaning about them, and I will work my way through them. The board is okay with just avoiding relegation, says Fraser. Love the show. Are we in talks with Sesko? I saw something about Sesko, Sean. Why would Man United be going for Sesko, a player that Arsenal didn't bother with because Leipzig wanted too much money? I mean, look, we went and got Casemiro and Anthony. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but you know what? Read the chat, says Loza. I'm reading the chat. What's happening in the chat? Okay, someone says read the chat, and then I read the chat, and there's nothing in the chat. Okay, sorry about that. Somebody said, read the chat, Mark. Read the chat. And I'm reading the chat. And there's nothing in the chat. Oh, you missed the super chat. Oh, did I? Oh, what a surprise. Because I'm actually working through them at the moment. Mass, thank you very much. Welcome to Members Club. Ewan Gordon says, the planning and organisation from the top is an absolute disgrace. This is why we're falling further away. Desperation always leads to poor decisions. People saying stop going to matches. It's not that simple, says Gems, one of our moderators. For every fan that doesn't go to a match, there's hundreds of others waiting in the wings to get that ticket. Old Trafford will never be empty, unfortunately. Look, I know Terry has always said this, and I completely agree with him with this. In fact, he got into quite a bit of trouble last year because he basically called out people who go to games and said that, you're part of the problem, really. But what he actually meant was, people say don't go to games, but people will take their tickets. People say don't buy shirts, but loads of people will. We're never going to empty Old Trafford. Anybody with a brain knows that won't do it. And we're never going to stop people buying shirts because we have a big community here, but there's millions of United fans that don't read things like this or go on Twitter or read Glazers Out or anything like that. So I think that if you want to remove the Glazers, the only thing that's ever worked was getting games cancelled. It was the only thing that worked. I think Joel Glazer did an interview within days of it. It was the only thing that caused the problem, and everybody knows that. But how you do that, or why you do that, or would you do that, I don't know. Sign Vardy and give him... I've done that one. Okay, I'm just trying to read super chats that I haven't read here, because people keep saying you've missed a super chat. What shirt number? Okay, done that. Chelsea did a rebuild in a year. Starting 11. There's no way Neville can defend. So Jim says, let go of my blouse. Ed, we did that. All we can do is have faith these guys will work. Says, no, I'm not having fucking faith. I'm not George Michael. I'm not having faith. Bloody faith. What do you want to do? Get a guitar and start going, you gotta have faith, the faith, the faith. Ooh, you gotta have faith, the faith. I'm not bloody having faith. Oh, yeah, what did faith do for anybody? That's the sort of stuff that the Glazers would say. You got to have faith while they're pocketing another billion. We've got to have action. Asked ChatGPT, 63% of the transfer window gone. It's embarrassing, says Menino. 63% of the transfer window is gone, apparently. Siddharth says, the way Man United is run, it'll lose its charm. Global fans, young players, and in a couple of years from now, people born after 2010 will not have any memorable memory. Without trophies, there will be history, says Siddharth. We'll basically become what the mainstream media has become. If you think, but you know what we are? You know what we are? We're EastEnders and Coronation Street. So EastEnders and Coronation Street are basically soaps. They're long-running TV series that are on 2 or 3 times a week and have been since, I think Coronation Street's been on since the 60s. EastEnders has been on since the 80s. Neighbours was one. It's finished. EastEnders and Coronation Street will end at some point in the next 20 years because the viewerships are dwindling. The only people watching them are people that have watched them all their lives, the older generation. I'd imagine the average viewer of EastEnders is in their, I'd say at youngest 40. Might be 50. So as those people get older and die off, that viewership will keep declining. This is true. Certain radio stations have this problem. Sky Sports have got this problem. They have an audience, but it's an aging audience. The younger audience ain't interested in it. And this is exactly what Man United is. We still retain a loyal, big fan base, but it will start to fall off. And the reason it will start to fall off is the same thing. Look at what happened last night. PSG, Chelsea, Club World Cup. You want to support a Premier League club because you're interested in the Premier League, people will support Chelsea. They might support Liverpool. They might support Arsenal. Are you going to support Man United? Some people will, but the percentages won't be as high as they would be if we'd won the league or we'd won that Club World Cup. We are a dwindling asset. And look, we've seen it with Cunha. Cunha wanted to come to Man United because he remembers people like Wayne Rooney. 5 years' time, you're going to ask some of the best players in the league to join us, and they're going to go, oh, what? Because Fellaini played for you. Another potential delay for Mbeumo. Do they want us asking for the next signing? They might not. Might just be waiting towards the end of the window, says Wackass. With the shit we got and a stubborn, naive young manager obsessed with a 5 at the back, that won't work in the Premier League. I'll say 12th, says Abraham. Signings are very slow, says Mika. After Mbeumo, we need a centre midfielder, a striker, and we need to recruit players for rotation from leagues out of the top 5 like Barca, says Mika. So Jim's only interested in the Champers League. Champers, says Nev32. Any predictions for Saturday, Mark, says Tom? Other than I'm quite looking forward to this pre-season, actually. I mean, I wrote a book last year, and there's a section on pre-season, and it is what it is. I'll be completely honest about pre-season. It's a bubble. It's totally irrelevant. Nobody talks about pre-season games when you've played your second game of the season. But it's a pathway into the real season. You don't really learn anything from it, but I'm actually quite looking forward to it because I'm fed up to the back teeth with the transfer window. So the opportunity to actually see if there's any improvement in the style of play is quite appealing to me. Yeah. What league table position is acceptable that Sir Amorim does not get fired for you in the chat, says Nicholas. Context is key, Nicholas. Context is key. I mean, I don't think he can finish in the top 6, so you can't sack him for finishing 8th. I think that's been inflicted on him. Chris C says he's 72, he has 5 to 10 years max and no long-term plan. Mate, it's 2025, Chris. You don't die. You don't. At 72, you've not got 5 or 10 years left. It could be around for another 25 years. Has Sir Jim put any of his billions into Nice? We've done that one from Ross Stephen. Thank you very much. Our panic buys are low-key good. Hope it works again, says Shubham. What panic buys have been good, mate? You do realise that Anthony was a panic buy. We might not get any signings, but at least I'll have the best stadium in the EFL in 10 years, is optimistic Man United fan. Compare Leeds fans, the noughties in today. That's our future, says HC. Can I marry you, says Bilal. I'm already married. So Jim can't badmouth Glazers as part of buying it, says Richard. Why would he badmouth them? Can you imagine if Sir Jim sat there and did an interview bad-mouthing the Glazers? If I was the Glazers, I'd say, mate, you're in charge of the football side. Look what you're doing. Mark, thank you very much. Bilal, the unsold tickets are sold for premium anyway, says Lee Berman. Thank you very much. Okay, we've dropped below 20,000 because people are off to watch Love Island. I know the game. I've played the game. I know how it works. Just a quick reminder, actually, we are very close to, I don't normally do this during the transfer window. We're very close to 114,000. We're about 33 subscribers away. Please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner. Make sure you get involved with the United Stand. We're live every morning at 10 o'clock, every night at 8 o'clock, and we have a 2 o'clock show as well. Obviously, if anything breaks, we'll go live. I mean, you've got more chance of breaking your leg than Man United breaking a transfer story, so be careful when you go to bed tonight. But thanks everyone for watching. Stay safe, and I will speak to you whenever the next show is, but probably, let's be honest with you, it's probably going to be, I would say, 10 o'clock tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Take care. And now into the post show, which I haven't been able to do for a couple of nights. Yes, this is just where we have a little bit of a chat about other things. Champers. I will be going down the slide. The 2 o'clock show today, I was out in the garden streaming, and people could see the slide in the background. So we set a target tonight that when I next do it in the garden, the stream, I will go down the slide. So that's something you can expect. And it could be tomorrow. I don't know. I think it's going to rain heavily tomorrow, though. So I don't want to go down a wet slide. That sounds wrong. But yes, I wanted to talk to you about irritants today, actually, because I found myself a little bit guilty over the weekend, and I thought I must share this. I was down the local supermarket, and there was a big queue at the checkout. And obviously, the evolution of checkouts now are that you don't queue. Remember the days when you used to queue up with your trolley and put it onto the thing, and then it'd move down, and then someone would be behind you, and you'd put the little separator there, and then you'd get in front of the woman or the man, and they go hello, and they go bam, 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 and you go, I hope they're not really quick, because I'm not very good at packing bags. Those days are gone now. Well, they still do it, but not for much longer, because you've got self-checkout now. And it was quite busy on Saturday. I only had a few items, and there was somebody at the front who was basically causing the delay. They'd put too much in their basket for a start. They shouldn't have been in there. It was 10 items or less. And then they'd obviously never used one before as well. Now, they weren't 90. They were probably in their 50s. And I just found myself, I was heavily tutting. I wasn't like saying anything. And so was everybody else. It sounded like a dripping tap, because all you could hear was tut, 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 tut. But I just found it incredible that you could be in your 50s and never have figured out how to use a self-checkout. It was actually, on the walk home, I actually was like, I'd calmed down a bit, and I was eating my Aero that I'd bought, and it was providing me with calmness. And I was thinking, you know what, it doesn't really matter. But it did matter when I was in the queue, but it doesn't really matter. But I did get lost on the point of irritants, the irritators that aren't that relevant. But I was like, how can you not know how to use a self-checkout? They really panicked. Like, they understood the scanning of the stuff, but then when they hit the last item, it was like sheer dread. It said, how do you want to pay? And then it had a list of card, contactless, phone, etc. And they, cash. And they clicked cash, which for me is just wild as well. You know, you've never used self-checkout, and then you're going to pay in cash. And then they were just stood there with this 20 going, looking at it. And I'm looking at it. I almost wanted to shout, you know where it says cash? That's where you put it in. But yeah, look, tell me some of your irritants. I'm not talking about football anymore, Andrew. I definitely don't want to talk about Ter Stegen. Unfortunately for you, I don't want to do that. It's not in my repertoire tonight. You definitely hate it when your internet starts buffering. I don't now. I used to in the early days. God, yeah. If I get a fly in the room, I'm more irritable than that. I think nowadays, I think in the formulative days when you're like, yeah, I used to care a lot. I do still care, but I'm just a lot more relaxed. Yeah, I used to get really stressed when I'd see it was buffering. I'd be like, oh my God, internet. Or, you know, used to have a few technical issues, certainly. But no, not so much now, to be honest with you. I do get quite irritated by football. Like if I'm watching amateur football, and then I have to realise that this is not the highest level of football. Mark, you had a podcast with someone a year ago. You talked about friendship. I saved the clip and I constantly watch it as it applies to my exact situation. You helped me a lot. I wonder what that was, Shahin. I know what the podcast was. Will's doing really well now, working with Birmingham City, you see. Glow up. When will you collab with Indian United fans, says Kanishka? Why does it have to be Indian fans? Why? I mean, I will collab with them, but why can't I collab with Paraguayan Indian fans or Jamaican Indian fans or New Zealander United fans? I don't really collab with anyone anyway. I like meeting people and talking to them about football, but I mean, when was the last? I mean, I did the Ben Jacobs interview last week. I collab with all you lot. That's my thing. I'm not, you know. I think there's a lot of people out there that safety in numbers. Like they sit and do a show and they always have to have someone with them. You're my collaborators. You know, that I feel like I enjoy this far more than I do sitting with anybody else talking, to be honest with you. When the self-checkout refuses to register items you have just scanned every time, says Emily Derry. Just stick it in your bag, Emily. Like, I'm a firm believer in this. It's not stealing. I mean, it is. But if you've whacked it through twice and it won't scan, I'm like, that's like saying to somebody, that's like someone offering you a tenner. You know, just take it. If it doesn't scan twice, it's not my problem. It's a technical glitch. It's a sign it's free, says John. Yeah, as Carlo says, that means it's free. What you have to do is scan, though. You can't just... I mean, have you seen... I mean, look, we get a lot of this in the UK. It's incredible. I mean, I don't like... It's not political, actually. I don't like the deterioration of society in any country. And I certainly... It wasn't a world I grew up in. But I cannot stand these clips you see of people walking into shops and literally just filling up bags and walking out, and the security guard just watching them. And I just think, what world have we created here? Well, they can't put their hands on them because they'll get sued. Will you really get sued for detaining them for theft? Really? I personally, I'd just put their arm up behind their back, put them on the floor, call the police. We've got them on CCTV. Amazes me. It absolutely amazes me that people walk in and just take stuff and get watched and then walk out. And apparently it happens loads and it's the same people doing it. Welcome to the UK. Welcome to the society flaws of the UK. Incredible. Incredible, the culture that's been created. Where's the manners? Where's the respect? It's pathetic. Pathetic. And I don't agree with they can't do anything. They bloody can do something about it. And I guarantee you, if they did do something about it, they wouldn't get sued. If you show a judge that, they'd go, they were doing their job. You were stealing. You started it. I genuinely don't think there's a judge in the land that's going to watch a security guard take down someone for stealing in a regulated move. And then when they've been arrested, the security guard's going to get arrested. Absolutely not. Not in my experience. Not at all. Total nonsense. It's just an excuse for people not to do anything. I think it's more likely it's the security guard going, no, I don't want to do that in case I get hurt. That's my thought. Citizens arrest. Exactly, Chris. Here we go. Hi from Dallas, Mark. Thanks for the stream as always. It's rare that I tell you what, talk about the United States. Someone walks in a shop in the United States and starts filling up their bag and then walks out. The least thing they're going to have to worry about is someone putting them into a regulated arm lock and calling the police. I mean, you're probably not going to have any kneecaps left. Especially in Dallas, Sir Dave. Anyway, Sir Dave is from Dallas. Thanks for the streams as always. It's rare that I'm able to watch live, but I always listen to the shows on my way to and from work. You stay safe, Dave. Thank you very much. Law enforcement bridge, says MMA. It's not law enforcement. It's just bloody... It's just morals and manners. I don't do politics, like I say, but God. People... You know what? Bad people prosper when good people do nothing. And the message from governments today seems to be, don't do anything, you can't do anything. You're the bloody government. What do you mean, don't do anything? It's like everything as well. It's everything. Absolutely everything. We can't do anything. They've got rights. Everybody's got rights. Yeah, I know they're horrific and they've done some really horrible things, but they've still got rights. What about the rights of the victims, you know? Here in my country, they have had hand scanners too, says Perk. Thank you very much for that as well. Are you doing a cooking or driving either, Goldbridge, anytime? So I won't be doing a bloody cooking with Goldbridge for a while because I'm having a bloody new kitchen put in and it's going to... But hopefully when it's in, I'll do it. That would be nice. Driving with Goldbridge. I need to do more. I've got some ideas, but it's very busy. It's very busy this time of year. I say like that, like I'm depressed. I'm fed up. I'll tell you what, just take it back to Man United for a moment because I did think about it earlier. There was a time in this transfer window when we were linked to Gyökeres and Mbeumo in early June and Martin as the goalkeeper. And I thought, you know what? We might end up with a goalkeeper, a top-class striker, Mbeumo and Cunha, and I'll be happy with that. And I think for a little bit, I dared to dream. And now where we are, I'm like, oh my God, the contrast between that moment is incredible. Troy, where is Troy? Can you just type what you said, because I can't find your super chat, and this happened before, so I can't find it, Troy. So can you or somebody just tell me what Troy's message is, because apparently he's got a message about his dad, and I really want to read it, but I can't find it, and this happened before. I'm not doing it on purpose, as people will try and accuse me of. I've never done that. I can't find the super chat on the list. I've been up and down 4 times and I cannot find it. So if anybody knows what Troy asked about his dad or what it is, and please don't start doing crude things. I can't find it, Troy. I literally can't find it. And it does this sometimes for some reason, and I don't know why. It's to do with his dad passing away. So if anybody can find this, they would be a superstar. Angling for More says, let's get Ericsson and Lindelof. They're both on a free. Mojo says, I believe we will finish between 8th and 11th at best. Here we go. Found it. Troy, we found it. They want Amorim to Flintstone it. Just fix the car. That's not it from Troy. That was from Barry, because that was another one. Troy says, Mark, my dad died last week. I think you mean last week. Mark, my dad died last week. Thank you for all the content. You and the community have always been there for me, and I truly need it now. Rest in peace to my dad. Troy, thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. As Mr. Polford said, huge hugs. Troy, you're going through. Look, you're going through a very, very difficult time, and there's nothing I am going to say, or you, or anybody else is going to say to make that any better. Because if you loved your dad, which I'm sure you did, when you lose something you love, it would be ridiculous if you just went, "I'm fine." You're never going to get past that. You're going to learn to live with it, and you're going to learn to carry that love inside of you. It's a really difficult time, and my thoughts go with you and everybody impacted by that, as I'm sure everybody in the chat does as well. Many of us go through it. Many of us will go through it. It's the downside of life. But then the upside is we live this life and we get to meet and we get to communicate and we get to love and we get to have these relationships. And I would take 1 week of a relationship than never have it at all. So love and live. And I'm sure that's what your dad would want to do. So keep going, Troy. And thank you for sharing that with us as well. I think that's a beautiful way to end the show. Thoughts with Troy. He's one of our members and one of our community. And I'm looking at all the live chats there as well, who are all with you. So thank you for sharing that with us, Troy. Apologies it didn't get picked up earlier, but we got there in the end. Pokey says, I work in north of England and please don't come out unless £250 has been stolen. Well, is that not a ticket if you live? Everyone in the north of England now is taking their calculator out and nicking about 249 quid's worth of stuff. I mean, it's incredible. This country needs sorting out. The thing is, everybody wants it. Mark, we have anything positive at all from United? I think something's going to happen before that new kit on Wednesday. I think it's an open goal. If the security guard intervenes, they get fired. They're told by head office not to intervene. So what does the security guard do? So if the security guard can't stop people stealing food, are they going to stop somebody beating me up with a can of baked beans? No. So what are they actually there for? Visual deterrent. Well, we all know they're not going to do anything. You'd be better off with a cardboard cutout of a police officer. You know what we need? AI security guards that can't be fired, that are trained to the level of prime Jean-Claude Van Damme. That's what we need. That's what we need. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care, stay safe, and I'll speak to you all soon.